At the end of March 2015, Cyclocross Oz is running a ride called A Long Way to the Rock. The ride starts at Goolwa at the mouth of the Murray River and heads up to Uluru. My name is Mark Carrington. I have travelled many parts of this route, mostly by bicycle, some with Cyclocross Oz and some on my own. As you can imagine, a ride that leaves the coast of Australia and heads into the heartland is going to have some very different elements, especially as we climb away from the coast and across the dividing range and then travel behind the dividing range through the vineyard countries of the Adelaide Hills, of the Barossa Valley and of the Clare Valley, as we wander along behind the Mount Lofty ranges with its view over Adelaide, through the small villages like Lenswood and Cuddly Creek where we will camp, and then further through the hills until we reach the Barossa Valley with its old vineyards. This is produce country, this is mining country, this is cattle country, this is rodeo country, this is the real Australia. And then into the Clare Valley with its old world tea rooms and vineyards and great cycling along the old rail trail called the Riesling Trail. It is a great place to have a first rest day and a chance to gather breath for more riding along the ranges through the grand old small villages with beautiful buildings like Yakka and Georgetown and Yangubara and Wirrabara, and then skirting along the edge of the Mount Remarkable National Park into the town of Melrose with its old buildings, its fine river gums, and then eventually the climb over the dividing range back to the sea as we cross Horrocks Pass, and where the outback meets the sea into the town of Port Augusta, over the bridge into its big estuary and its famous fish, the King George whiting, and a welcome place to have a break before we make the big divide to head up the Stuart Highway, keeping the Flinders Ranges on our right hand side as we head into open country. South Australia was settled by Germans and by English people, and in every village there are 3 churches, a Lutheran church, a Catholic church and an Anglican church. You do well to look for those before Port Augusta, because once we pass the Flinders Ranges into the Majors Range, it is all different. From Port Augusta we pass Lake Country, Lake Hart, Lake Macfarlane, Lake Gardner, sometimes close to the road and sometimes a glimmer in the distance. We pass the turn-off to Woomera, famous for Australia's role in space research and in the nuclear program. You will also find flowers. This is a different country where you need to find your value close to the ground rather than in the buildings and the history of what man has actually created. We reach Kubaperi, which is a remarkably interesting town. It is the opal city of capital of the world. It's also the hottest place in Australia, where people live underground. They build their churches underground, and it is home to the breakaways. It just is a remarkable national park. It's also home to the world's largest dog fence, just not far from town. The road north of Kubaperi looks like stone country. In fact, it is cattle country. Wide open spaces and many cattle grids. The road is served by roadhouse that serve the cattle stations as well, like Cadney Park and Glendambo and Culgera, just short of the South Australian border. The sunsets are fabulous, whether they are man-made or showing the importance of the windmill, or just driven by the few trees that nature provides. We soon reach the South Australian border, and it is not far from there before we will make the turn off the Stuart Highway 1,000 kilometers from Adelaide and head towards Uluru. Here we will come across our first camels. We now travel the Lassiter Highway, which joins the Stuart Highway to Uluru. This road is dominated for the first section by Mount Connor on the left-hand side. We will pass the turn-off to Kings Canyon, best visited during the rest break, and then we will come across the monolith of Uluru. Uluru is a very important spiritual place. I visited there the day after 9/11 and was immensely struck by the power of the mountain. And the view from the top towards the Kachathucha, or the Olgas. This road along the Lassiter Highway is the place to connect with the ancient power of the Australian landscape and the traditions of the traditional owners of the land who live in these parts still. There are still places for the ride. It starts March 25th, 2015. Head to www.cycleacrossoz.com.au or check out our fan pages on Facebook or on Google+ under the name Cycle Around Australia, or email us at cycleacrossoz@hotmail.com.